Hello and welcome to the programme. I'm Jane Margetts. How do you put a price on nature? It's a pretty esoteric concept, but for the first time an economic value has been calculated for Australia's ocean life. Researchers say it's worth $25 billion, but they've warned the federal government that it could all be put at risk without greater protection. Here's Sarah Clark.
When you think of the big earners from Australia's oceans, fishing, oil and gas exploration are the industries that come to mind. Now for the first time, a dollar value has been given to the marine life that lies within.
Australia's total marine economy is worth $69 billion, but $25 billion of that is currently economically invisible.
Economically invisible, or services that nature provides for free. This report has done the calculations, giving recreational fishing a value of $6 billion. As for the ocean's ability to store carbon, at $23 a tonne, that makes it worth $16 billion to the national economy.
Carbon is very important. Obviously, it's not the only value that oceans provide. We took a very conservative approach.
But the report comes with a warning. As global fish stocks decline, so too are Australia's numbers, and 9,000 jobs in commercial fishing could be at risk.
The science is in, and now the economics is in. We need to see a network of highly protected marine sanctuaries in Australia's marine environment.
The federal government is currently considering that proposal, but the commercial fishing industry says that too would put billions of dollars at risk.
At the moment, the biggest impact will be to lock fisheries out of substantial areas of marine areas.
Even so, the federal government's agreed to 10% of Australia's marine environment being protected within a decade.
A tropical island in North Queensland is facing a crisis. It has less than 2 weeks' supply of water remaining. A group of scientists has toured the region and believes significant weather events are proof that more should be done to cope with climate change. From Orpheus Island, here's Penny Timms.
Orpheus Island is a vital base for marine research for the Great Barrier Reef and home to a luxury resort. Both were damaged by Cyclone Yasi in February. Authorities say the island is at the forefront of climate change because of the sensitive coral surrounding it.
In other parts of Australia, climate change will also be having effects, but they won't be as obvious yet. And so we have an opportunity here to be tackling climate change perhaps first and be learning about what climate change means for the way we manage reefs and the way we use ecosystems.
Members of the Australian Rural Leadership Foundation are touring the region to learn more about climate change and how to protect their own communities.
And that's a sort of knowledge that can be really useful to people even in systems as different as farming systems or different parts of Australia's coastline.
Researchers here believe climate change is a reality. There are concerns about what impact climate change is having right now. Here on Orpheus Island, this research station has less than 2 weeks' water supply left after Cyclone Yasi destroyed its reserves. Since then, there's been little follow-up rain. Some scientists are concerned the frequency of extreme weather events will increase as the environment changes. The manager of the island's research station fears that will lead to similar problems in the future.
With climate change coming through, shortage of water is going to be an issue for the station as it continues to grow.
Plans are underway to have water sent to the island by barge before stocks run dry. While that will provide a short-term fix, plans are being drafted for a long-term solution. Without that, there are fears for the longevity of the island.
With the cost of living on the rise and growing environmental awareness, the push towards more sustainable living is now a priority for many Australians. Hundreds of homes across the country opened their doors to mark the annual Sustainable House Day. From display homes showcasing the latest design innovations to older homes retrofitted to improve their efficiency, the aim of the day was to show how anyone can go green. Anna Morozzo reports.
For Geoff Hyde and his wife Fern, there's more to sustainable living than just installing solar panels on the roof.
We've revamped the entire back of the house so that we've got better solar orientation. We've added the 10,000 litre water tank, 2.5 kilowatt PV array, and in our garden we've got 50 square metres of veggie patch.
not to mention the 4 roaming chooks and an additional produce garden shared with 2 other properties.
Our backyard's very different from what it was.
Today they've opened their ex-government house in Canberra to the public to share their tips on green living.
It's the little things that you can do to change the way you live, which really impacts on how much energy you use and how sustainable that you can be.
But it's not just private homes opening their doors. At one of Canberra's newest suburbs, Crace, demonstrations are being held at display homes, showcasing the latest energy-efficient technologies.
The thing about these windows was to, particularly in the Canberra climate, was to maximise solar heat gain in the winter, so you get your free passive solar heating.
And for those more interested in decorating rather than renovating, there's also ample opportunity to reduce, reuse and recycle. Now in its 10th year, Sustainable House Day is a source of inspiration for new home buyers, as well as those just looking to improve their existing abode.
Fantastic. I think the opportunities with double glazed windows and good orientation to the sun and things like that, it's really good.
And for those well and truly on the road to sustainability, the switch has certainly paid off.
We've effectively halved our power usage since we started on our little journey.
That's enough to turn anyone green with envy.
It was a car show with a difference, a festival of electric vehicles showcasing the newest developments in driving green. While cars and the environment don't often sit comfortably together, the ACT government's looking at ways to increase the territory's green fleet and reduce its carbon footprint. Jessica Nairn went to check it out.
It looks like an ordinary car, until closer inspection, that is.
It drives exactly the same, except it doesn't make any noise and costs about $2 to drive about 150k.
Blustery conditions didn't stop Canberrans coming to admire the most cutting edge and more unusual developments in electric vehicle technology. There may be only 50 of the cars on ACT roads, but the capital's leading other jurisdictions in embracing the shift.
Well, we've been very much an early supporter of electric vehicles, so we have an incentive around stamp duty to encourage people to consider buying electric vehicles.
The ACT government's ambitious 2020 greenhouse reduction targets also means it's looking towards increasing the territory's green fleet as a way of reducing our footprint.
We know that our biggest 2 uses are energy and cars, so it's heating and cooling our houses and driving our cars around town. So we need to make changes to both of those areas, and electric cars offers us part of that solution.
That environmental concern resonates with drivers.
Leaving a smaller footprint, not using fossil fuel, we've got solar power on the roof, and the solar panels generate more than enough power for the car.
For me, it was about low emissions and running a car on green power. Petrol engines are just so horribly inefficient.
More charging points are emerging throughout the city, but the cars do come at a cost, around $50,000 for a new set of wheels.
They're coming down in price every time there's a new model coming out. They're coming down a bit.
A breath of fresh air, perhaps for those who've had enough of exhaust fumes.
Tourists love them, but conservationists are worried that koalas are disappearing fast. Now even federal MPs are concerned about the future of the koala population, and they've called on the government to protect one of the nation's greatest ambassadors.
It's cute and cuddly, and some say worth $1 billion to Australia's bottom line. But conservation groups have long argued the koala population is in trouble.
The Australian Koala Foundation believes there's no more than 85,000 koalas, probably more likely 45 left in Australia, and that compares with maybe 10 million at White Settlement.
That warning hasn't been lost on a parliamentary committee. It's spent 8 months investigating the koala's fate, and it's convinced there's enough evidence to have them protected.
Oh, absolutely, and this is one of the few reports I've been on where it's a unanimous recommendation from all of the political parties involved.
As well as protection under national law, the report's made 19 recommendations, including better national monitoring, habitat mapping of critical areas, and identifying priority spots for koala conservation.
What we don't want is more shunting of responsibility, delay and failure of integrated national action.
It also notes a multitude of threats, including urban development, logging, as well as drought, bushfires, disease and dog attacks. This report couldn't come soon enough for those who campaigned hard to get the koala on the watch list.
Yeah, I'm almost happy to put the candles on the cake. You know, I just think that we're so close now to getting the koala protected, and it's been 200 years coming.
But this is just a first step. The federal government makes the final decision, and that's expected by the end of the year.
The Tassie devil might need a name change. A small colony of the creatures is thriving on the mainland, while in their native Tasmania they're being ravaged by facial tumours. The baby boom in the New South Wales Hunter Valley is going so well, conservationists hope it will ensure the devil's survival. Here's Meredith Griffiths.
Tasmanian devils face extinction in their home state, but their future is looking bright in New South Wales. Last January, 43 devils were released into enclosures in Barrington Tops by the Devil Ark Conservation Program. Mating season started soon after.
The first season has been a huge success. We've got joeys that are 7 months old now, and they are beautiful. They're 1 or 2 months away from being independent, and they are the next generation.
Rangers haven't been able to count every new devil, but 7 females have given birth. They have up to 4 joeys each, though some are now being hand-reared.
By lightening the load a little bit for mum, it can increase her potential to breed again.
These devils are being bred as an insurance population in case the species is wiped out altogether in Tasmania. Deadly facial tumour disease has been tearing through the island since 1996.
The sightings have gone down by about 85% in places where the disease is present.
Here in Barrington Tops, they live in free-range enclosures, but are trapped monthly for health checks. If every breeding season is as successful as this one, the project is on track to have 360 devils here by 2016, and the population will grow to 1,000 over the next 10 years. Devil Ark owns 500 hectares of land, but at the moment is only using 25 hectares. Now it's seeking funding to build more enclosures for the growing population. The devils are being raised in a wild environment, so their descendants could one day be released into the Tasmanian bush.
And that's all for this edition of the Environment Quarter. You can get more news at abc.net.au/environment. And we'll have another edition of the Environment Quarter in a fortnight.